Hi guys, my name is Yewande. I work with ProduqtEdge, and today I'm talking to a product legend. His name is Oji Udezue. Hi Oji.
Hi, Yawande.
Okay. I'm obviously starstruck, so this is going to be a very interesting
No,
episode.
no need to be. Not at all.
Okay, so a bit of background. Oji Udezue, sorry, is a product legend. He's worked as CPO in the top places that you can think of. Those companies that you want to work at. He's been there, he's done that, he's built them, sometimes from 1 to 100, sometimes from 0 to 1. You've had huge impact in the industry, and we're so grateful to the likes of you. So thank you very much for taking the time to sit with me.
Thank you.
You were not exactly in engineering in Microsoft, you were product. So how did you get to patent filing?
Well, first of all, I was trained as an engineer, basically.
Okay.
I have a master's in computer science and electrical engineering. So the reason for the patents are two things. One was I, Microsoft is a technology company. Like people think it's a product company, but it's really a technology company. And so we invented all of the things that we made. We invented our way out of problems. And I was very determined when I was very young in my career to be part of that, to invent, to create new ideas into the world. And so just by focusing on it, I did it. And then the technical chops came from all of my interactions with developers because we worked in squads. So I was with developers all the time,
Okay.
work figuring out the algorithms they would use. And of course, the training engineering. I literally got into a PhD program. I just got a master's. I couldn't do the 4 years. So all that helps.
I'm curious. I'd like to know, what is it about your background that you think prepared you for the trajectory that your career has gone?
Hmm, that's a tricky question. No one knows.
Hmm. If you
I
could
mean,
say one thing.
every kind of success you see in humanity is a multifaceted thing. There were 100 Baracks when he was born, and only one made it to president. So, can you figure out which one it was? I will tell you some of the things that drove me. One was I'm very competitive. I'm also very goal oriented. I tend to try to see what I want to be, where I want to go, and seeing where you want to go is sort of it's an underrated tool for achievement. Is visualizing it.
Hmm.
Um, Also toughness. Tough times always create some resilience, some drive because you're trying to prove something or trying to get out of something. And so there were some tough times in my childhood that also became part of my DNA.
Of all the things that you've done, product-led growth is something that you started doing even before it became a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm really curious. Okay, so I started my career deploying Microsoft solutions.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to be what Microsoft is called technical account manager.
Okay.
Yeah.
A
So
TAM.
yeah, when we talk about product led growth today, for me it goes way back, even beyond or before my time. So back in the day, I remember we used to go, set up physical POCs in people's offices. Then over time, it became Hyper-V came, and then we started doing virtual machines or
Mm-hmm.
virtual setups for them
Yeah, I remember
to,
that very well at
yeah.
Microsoft. Lots of VMs. Oh my God.
And my laptop
Yeah,
was a server of servers.
I had a beast because I was the product marketing manager for Visual Studio Ultimate,
Okay.
and I had to put like environments, especially for private builds, and also then take that around the world to talk to our
Yeah.
salespeople to prepare them. It was crazy.
It was always interesting. I had to be ready at every point in
Oh
time.
my
I had to
God.
always have environments ready
Yeah.
to
Some of them was
demo.
very special because it wasn't all production ready. It was crazy. And you have to pray to the gods of demos.
Anyway, so point is, all of this existed in that time. So what's different now? How do you think PLG evolved from those scenarios, or is PLG a
No,
new
no,
concept?
I don't think it evolved from those scenarios. Like
Okay.
there are always persistent problems to solve. So like if you're carting VMs around, what problem are you trying to solve?
Yeah.
The problem is that you're trying to sell to enterprise clients and trying to show them what's possible. Okay? And so there was this era of environments. And Microsoft actually did it the worst. People like you running around showing people VMs. But enterprise companies that are born on the web did it differently. They would create a sandbox, right?
Yeah.
Online.
Thank you, Citra.
So that anybody could experience the sandbox without having a TAM bothering them. so, so like Salesforce or whatever, and so on and so forth. And then the sandbox evolved to, why do we need this? Just sign up and check it out yourself, right? Get an account. You have 30-day free trial. You check it out. It doesn't work. We don't care. Data storage has fallen to nothing. And so it's not even a sandbox. Use your real data. We don't care about sandbox and anything. It doesn't, because it came from multi-tenancy. Before, you needed a sandbox because everyone was basically on the same database. There was no multi-tenancy. So with multi-tenancy, just you have your own account. Check it out. Like it, not like it, put your data in, doesn't matter. It doesn't corrupt anything. We're good to go. So what does this mean? If you zoom out, it's that the way we buy software and technology is changing, and power has gone from the CIO to the end user over time, and it's still happening. Even though people think, "Oh, okay, AI now, PLG," these are parallel trends, and the trends continue. Now, PLG is best if the product isn't enterprise. It turns out no one wants to spend $1 million and just do PLG,
Okay, so
right?
this was okay. That's
Right.
fine. We're skipping ahead.
No, no,
No, it's
no.
fine. No, 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 please.
So PLG is, to me, is not even just about acquisition. I think acquisition and changing acquisitive models is reflective of the direction of PLG. But what it is, the real secret is, once your product starts once the end user of your product starts to discriminate what they want, then you have to design for them. You have to listen to them. So the heart of PLG is building a product that satisfies the end customer, and then building a superstructure of marketing and go to market that supports that end customer. That is PLG. It's not freemium, it's not just putting stuff online. It is satisfying them in the product and then using the product to match their purchase journey.
Okay.
That is PLG.
Okay, so I'm happy we went this direction because we were eventually going to get there, but might as well skip ahead. So two things you've said. One is you think that PLG is more B2C oriented.
Only in the sense that the C is an enterprise consumer. So they're a consumer sitting inside work.
Okay. So same thing.
But it's not leisure.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, here's my issue. There's a clear distinction in B2B of who the user is and who the customer is. Customer usually being the buyer. Now, we're at the point where, like you said, we're being more cognizant of the user, and we're building more for the user. So in that case, obviously it means that the user does the quote unquote trials, does the influences the buyer. So that usual, the typical quadrant, buying quadrant. Okay, so now my issue is, who is my ICP?
Okay. So let me rewire some definitions for you.
Okay.
The person you're calling the user, but I hate that word. It sounds exploitative. User. It sounds like a drug addict. I don't know what it is. So, what you're calling the user, I call the customer.
Okay.
The person who uses it, to me, is your customer.
Okay.
Sometimes the customer is the buyer.
Yeah.
If it's like SMB software, prosumer software, it's often the buyer. They check it out. It's freemium. They either use their credit card and expense it and ask for forgiveness later, Or they go to their boss and say, "My friend, give me this credit card.
Let's
This
do
software is
it.
exactly
Yeah.
what I need, right?" And the guy's like, "Okay, is this what you need? This is going to
Mm,
make you hit your
mm,
OKRs.
mm.
Why not? I don't care." Like compared to the goal, this cost is trivial. So sometimes the customer is the buyer.
Mm.
Usually in the in between interregnum between SMB and enterprise, the buyer could be different person, department head, and so on and so forth. And then you just call them the buyer. They
Yeah.
are the buyer. Just use the same term. They influence the purchase decision. They have to be influenced by the customer and so on and so forth. So who is your ICP? Your ICP is always the customer. Actually, there are two definitions of ICP, just to be technical and completist. There's
Mm.
ideal company profile.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, people confuse that with ideal customer
Customer.
profile. Well, it's really simple. You define the ideal customer and then you try to figure out what kind of companies are they in. And that gives you the ideal company profile.
Exactly. Okay. So typically, one of the things that is, one of the key drivers for successfully driving a PLG strategy
Hmm.
is having a common goal, which we call North Star
Hmm.
metric. So scenario, a newly minted product leader or chief product officer, I'm inheriting a product that has been in existence for a while, running within a traditional company. So they're typically, I don't say sales led, but they do every other growth method. So sales, marketing, community, but never really product.
Hmm.
The product is not exactly crap, but it could be a lot better
Hmm.
from the consumer's perspective.
Hmm.
So what are the first things you would advise me to do?
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know if this has to do with PLG per se. I think the first thing you do as a leader is you do an audit.
yeah.
Um, you score how's what's going on. Like, there's a system of people. So you take a look at your people. Are they the right people? Is the system for managing them good? You take a look at direction. Are we heading in the right direction? Um, are the goals clear? Are they being met? Um, and you take a look at execution and you score it. Like how are engineers building? Do they have clarity? Do they have confidence? And so on and so forth. And then based on your audit, then you focus. Do I need new people? Was it how long does it take to get them? Do I need better execution? Why? Who am I going to work with the CTO? Are the goals clear? Right? Basically, what needs? There's always a thousand things. What needs the most intervention at the moment? Now, I believe a CPO's job is customer experience, not just like the product or what people think of as a product.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
every touch point of customers, and
Mm-hmm.
from the website to potentially even sales, is his concern. Even if
Yep.
it's not his department, his concern. I see product now as really like the customer experience, really because as PLG moves, um, onboarding,
Mm-hmm.
discovery,
Mm-hmm.
and some parts of marketing to the product, and support is really hinged on a good product satisfying needs. Because if it's a crappy product and your support costs are up, like I think of that as customer experience. I don't mean that a CPO should rule everything. I just mean that they should be concerned about everything and they should create coalitions and management systems that allow them to absorb these things, evaluate them, and make them better through other teams potentially. So I think that's what you do. You do an audit and you focus on the hotspots. This is what CEOs do. There's no reason why chief product officers can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But have a wide aperture, right? Look at not just the core EPD. Look at work marketing. Is it good? Look at the data analysis. Is it good? Look at the user research. Is it good? Look at the processing of customer signals. Is it good? Look at account management. Look at sales. Are you connecting? Is your team collaborating with them properly? These are all things that a CPO should do once they get in. Um, I think this is super important. Like these are places where, frankly, I failed a lot. It's just not. Um,
What do you mean?
I failed a lot. I mean, LinkedIn isn't success and failure. But you have these are no. This is scar tissue. Sometimes I've come into a role and I haven't evaluated properly, or I'm too slow, recognizing something is bad, and you
Okay.
keep learning.
So change is basically what you're talking about, change management within an organization. Okay, so I'll talk about this from my experience as a consultant. A lot of times, looking from the outside in, naturally you're able to see things with fresh eyes, and you're able to, especially also because you're following proper processes, you're able to define or identify where there are gaps and where there are issues. I think that that first part of the job, identifying those gaps, the discovery part is usually relatively easy because you're basically just eliciting data from people. And then you go back and put that data together and come back with recommendations. When you come back with those recommendations, then all hell breaks loose. There's a lot of pushback within the organization, whether you're internal or external as a change driver. So how do you, and you've already said you have a lot of scar tissue with respect to that. So what are few learnings that you can share?
Well, look, there's a big disparity between a CPO and a consultant.
Okay.
A consultant has much less authority, and it feels more like finger pointing. The CPO, this is literally the organization, and so it has a lot more authority. So
Okay.
there's a big disparity. Even if you work for the CPO, there's still a big disparity because you're the person and not them. And if you feel like that's a barrier, then you need them to say it,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. But regardless, like, even if people aren't saying, oh, it's not my fault, specifically, even if you have a lot of authority, there's always some kind of resistance. Change is hard, and it's not personal. It's like, it is what it is. It's almost like the law of thermodynamics or something. It's fundamental. So what leaders have to do is they have to pick the most important things, the things that are at the base of the pyramid that will make the most change. You can't make too much change at once. When you say change management, I hate that word, but you can't make too much change at once. So you have to graduate it. So what that looks like is what will have the most impact and that can have the most effect on in the short run. And you keep peeling the onion, right? And you defer some things that might be egregious, but you're like, this is not the thing I'm going to die on, not that this hill, because this hill doesn't give me the returns that I want.
Yeah, the 80/20 rule. Okay, so good segue into back into PLG. We've not been talking about PLG for the past few minutes. So one of the key things, or one of the key differences about the implementation of PLG is in ownership, in terms of who owns everything from customer engagement to bottom line. So, for example, in product led versus sales led, for example, ownership in terms of who acquires the customer or who engages the customer or who tries to retain the customer, who's responsible in those aspects. And when you start thinking about responsibility, you start thinking about incentivizing those people. How does it affect the structure of the organization as a whole, and how does it affect the culture in general? Like, what are the things that you should be paying attention to?
I think a PLG company, not one that's transitioning or anything like that, should center customers, period. Everybody, every department should center customers. Every department should either be trying to make money from customers or understanding them better. And some departments should funnel the understanding of customer to the product team, who then farms it out into elegant, successful product. So I don't know, like, ownership feels like a weird thing. The fact is, the center of a product-led growth company is a product, and that means that the product team is the center of a product-led growth company.
Yeah. So there are two perspectives. There's the perspective of a company that is literally just starting. That is, it makes more sense to start with product-led growth anyway, or to go, that route. But there's also the perspective of a lot more companies that have run traditionally for a long time, that have incumbents who, have felt comfortable in certain roles.
Yeah.
So it then becomes a question of, are you trying to de
the power.
Incentivize,
Yeah.
yes, those,
No, so this is why I said those are companies in transition. Usually they're
yeah,
sales led
yes,
and they're trying to become more product led because of all the pressure and the
yes.
trends and the
Mm,
changes.
mm.
And there it's just a fight usually, some fight between sales and product and the product core. In those cases, I found that the most effective thing is conviction at the top,
Okay.
right? Some CEO or some CPO or some CFO or CEO has to say, "You guys stop bickering. This is
This is
how we
how we're
will
going to
make
run.
money. The product and the customer is the center. Whatever we used to do is done. That regime
And
is
everybody
done."
comes together.
Because any other way is just a waste of time. Like
Mm.
you have product managers who are trying to be product centric and being stymied by everybody else. You have CPOs and principal product managers who are trying to be customer centric, but it's just like a lot of radiation into space,
Mm.
not getting across signal across to the other side.
Okay.
So you need cover to do it effectively. So being product led, I think, requires a lot of conviction, but because it does mean people
An
have to
entire
understand that
DNA
the
change.
the 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 product is the
Mm.
center, and if you don't get that, it's just difficult for everyone involved.
Okay, great. So we're back to product. Product. Okay, so product is the center. What does that mean?
It just means that the creation of value for the customer is all most people care about. That the customer experience in the product itself, which is a lot of it, but also outside it, is all people care about, obsess about. That's it. Like, there's a reason I think people should say product led versus customer led. Product led means that you've masticated what product customers want, added ingredients that they can't see
You're not
because
just taking
customers don't know
requirements
how
and
to.
building.
Yeah, you don't take customers literally
Yeah.
because they don't understand the future, they don't understand the trends, they don't understand the market space.
Mm-hmm.
A good company understands all those things and then points it all in the direction of the customer.
So there's something you said. Product managers don't talk to customers enough. It's sad. It's not what it's supposed to be, but I think we've been advocating for a change, and
Hmm,
I
hmm.
want to believe that things are getting better actually. And no, I think that things are getting better. But where does quality come in terms of, okay, when you're collecting all of this data, what should you be looking at, or what are the aspects of, so for example, let's use Calendly, one of your um past experiences as an example. What was key for you in understanding or in identifying a an ideal customer?
I think a few things. One is I always make a distinction between customer discovery and customer listening.
Yes, I've heard you say that.
Yeah, discovery is how you find maybe new problems or nuances
Mm,
of the old problem you're solving. It helps you build um, either new product or macro
mm-hmm.
new products, like a new module or a new business related to the customer you're attacking. It's like discovering new opportunity. Listening is refinement. Listening is you release something where you forgot that, you know, that pixel on that side
Mm,
is annoying to
mm,
customers. And if you listen, you should be able to refine. Listening is about your existing customer. Discovery can be your existing customer listening to the more of their core needs or lookalikes,
mm.
people who are not even your customer but have matched the ICP, so you can understand more of their workflow, more of their problems. Um, but I think that understanding triggers usually in the data because that's the you need. It's so hard to understand customer triggers at a fine grained level by talking to them because it's just an order of magnitude different. Like you
Mm.
have like 10,000 customers. How many customers can you talk to get to 10,000? It's not really possible. You're going to talk to tens and hundreds. But if you look at the data from Amplitude or whatever you have,
Mm.
Pendo, you can. I think at Canley we saw the most efficient triggers. We had this board where it told us that here are the features that help get people to upgrade.
Mm.
but like you could look at the most efficient triggers. Like once we did a feature, we could look at what tier it that people who use it the most started out and where they ended on.
Yeah.
But again, that's after the fact. But then we could then say, oh, this was a very efficient feature, or it was inefficient in terms because obviously we're trying to get people to
Well,
upgrade.
to be fair, most of the time it's after the fact because there's a lot of experimentation
That's right.
involved.
So it's after the fact, but it does give you confidence. It means that
Yes.
Zoom works.
Mhm.
Maybe if we did the Google
Something
Meet
similar,
thing,
exactly.
it'll
Or
also be work.
Teams,
So now
or yeah.
you're combining. So like Zoom works. Oh, should we do Teams? Zoom was pretty efficient. Teams could be also be as efficient, and things like that. So most of the certainty usually lies in the data itself.
Okay.
The customer interviews tell you why, right? But the data tells you what.
We're working with a lot of data
hmm
and a lot of experimentation. So, from the experimentation perspective, the essence of PLG is to reduce cost of acquisition. But well, maybe not. Yeah, but to a large
One
extent,
aspect of it.
one of the key essence. I mean, one of the key goals. Okay, so if I'm trying to reduce cost of acquisition and I'm trying to reduce the resources that I'm spending on, you know, the excuse me, the business side of my product, but I'm spending a lot more on experimentation, especially when I'm getting experimentation wrong. So for like what you said, for instance, now you some things you would only know after the fact, but you've done it already. You've already spent the money. You've already made the investment. How do you marry that risk?
Well, the fact is that it's not an even trade. A salesperson is very expensive. Right, a salesperson is very expensive. Usually, you have to the company has to split revenue with them with their bonuses and so on and so forth.
Sure.
Marketing campaigns usually costs a huge amount of money.
Sure.
So, sales and marketing driven growth is probably always going to be more expensive than product driven growth. So it's not the same scale. Let's just start with that. So even the cost of experimenting doesn't. It's tiny compared to oh, you gotta spend $1 million on a campaign, or gotta spend $1 million on Google ads and so on and so forth. Or we need to build a new brand, and it's gonna cost us $5 million to get a brand out, right? And we gotta pay consultants. This is not the same thing. I mean, experiments costs pennies in comparison to that. So even like 1,000 experiments, some of which are wrong. I mean, I don't know if I would worry too much about it.
Okay.
With that being said, one of the things I tell PM, this is PM, PM graduate level PM, not entry level, is that experimentation is expensive in different ways in terms of time.
Yeah.
If you run an experiment and you have 10,000 customers, you might have to wait a month to get statistical significance. Do you really have a month? So the question is, did you really need to do that experiment? You should do experiments on things that are uncertain. We are very enamored with A/B tests. I'm like, A/B test everything. Look, if you're not Facebook, don't freaking A/B test everything.
How many people do you have there testing?
Right? Facebook can run an A/B test and get back in a day because of their scale, but a typical B2B SaaS cannot. They don't have that kind of scale.
Yeah.
And so now you're trading off time. So I tell B2B SaaS PMs in particular, non-consumer PMs, experiment where there's uncertainty. Sometimes you just build it because you've talked to 100 customers. That I can do. That kind of time I buy. You talk to 100 customers, you've entered their brain, you've entered their sleep. You know exactly what the workflow problem is. You might not know some of the fine refine, which is what customer listening, but you can do it after the fact.
Yeah.
Right? But you know what they want. You know what's paining them. Okay? Spend the time there, get that, and then don't try to A/B test some large conceptual idea. Are you kidding me? For what now? Why don't you just talk to the customer and figure it out? Okay? So experiment where uncertainty is high. And where uncertainty is high, experiments are amazing. But where it's just a cultural tick, we gotta A/B everything, you're wasting time.
So, there's a lot of conversation around how AI feeds into product.
AI is a tool; it should be used everywhere. It's like you use it everywhere that's possible. Like, what's a good tool that we use all the time that's pervasive? Well, we put things in the cloud, for example. Give you an example. My team at Typeform used AI for growth. So they use it to personalize. You come in, you ask a few questions, they personalize your onboarding. So if they know you're this, onboarding changes. Setting up your first survey, for example, they ask you a few questions and just made it for you. And they used AI to do some of that stuff. So it was basically AI in the growth world.
Okay, I see what you mean. Because I was thinking more from the data manipulation perspective, or in being able to analyze multiple data points and then figure out trends and behaviors and be able to predict.
Well, that's in terms of tools.
Yeah.
Like that's in the Pendo Amplitude arena. One place that's useful is just like summarizing data. So there's a lot of quantitative data. A lot of it is thrown away. Some of the customer listing, because customer listing is vast. It's like, oh, you have all these reviews online and star ratings. You have NPS. You have churn data. You have Zendesk support stuff. And the problem people have struggled over the last 10 years is that they can't make sense of it. But now, if you feed it into an AI engine, you say, what are the top 10 things across all these channels? It'll tell you. The last thing I talked about when I was in Europe was AI at the core and AI at the edge. Even the thing I described, I think, is edgy. Like, we didn't really change our code very much. We use it for personalization, for setting up your first survey. So this just sped up the growth part of it. So it's a tool for growth, like a classic PLG tool. But with Formless, which was a product that my Typeform Labs team came, AI was at the center. It could do that and more. Basically, once you start registering, it will even look up your company if it was big enough and create the top 5 surveys anyone in your company would want. So AI was
at the core of the product.
It was like the core of it. Like even the UI was wrapped around AI versus wrapped around a lot of code with a little AI sprinkle on top. So this is the thing I'm obsessed with now. Is as I was sitting with you, I was like, man, maybe I should. Because I talk a lot about PLG, but what people want, PLG is a fantastic trend.
Wide spectrum.
But what people want to know is how does AI fit into our strategy now? Yeah. It's a big deal. So I have thoughts on that.
That's going to be part of our PLG trend. The eventual goal is to have customers advocating for you, which I think you call virality. How do you get there?
Just build a really good product.
I was almost certain this was what you were going to say, but okay. So here's the thing. In fact,
build a product with a high NPS.
Let me read my comments out. So how do we get there? You say, I know you say sharp products, but
sharp products,
sharp problems rather. Solve sharp problems.
Yeah.
So that's your mantra. Solve sharp problems. I get that, but sometimes so like the scenario we described earlier. Not every time are you going to find yourself in a situation where you're building something new or something so quote unquote awesome that is solving a really sharp problem. Sometimes you're building something that is solving a problem, but it's not that big a problem, or it's not a pull my hair out of my head, kind of problem. So how do I balance a situation where I'm inheriting this product and this product is good. It does solve some problems, but it's not. So for example, I've listened to you talk about mapping out the workflow and figuring out how much change you actually make in the person's life. In this case, maybe the difference is it's not 3x, it's not 2x, it's not even 1x, maybe it's 0.5. But it does solve that problem, and it solves it really well. It's just that the problem is not a kill me now kind of problem.
Yeah, look, I disagree with the premise. Sharp problems is not just product scale, meaning that yeah, many people are working on products that are to die for.
Okay.
That's true. But like it's also a sub scale, meaning that within your product, whatever you have, because as a senior PM or PM or principal, you're choosing companies, not
Yes.
products. Um, within your feature set, are you really solving the fundamental thing that people care about? It's the same thing. Like, imagine you don't control the frame. Within your little corner of it, I have an enterprise product. Okay. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to build enterprise authentication. I have to build um, an admin dashboard. I have to build analytics, right? You should have a very clear sense of, do those things matter to unlock opportunity, and in what order? Some people will be like, oh, we got to do it all, running around. But you have to have a structured way of thinking. Which is the most critical thing? If I solve this one, what will all the people I'm targeting, admins, which one will they be like, thank God? That's the definition of picking a sharp problem. Now, that is not necessarily enough to create virality. But honestly, within the people who care about it, which is maybe a 10% of your user base, they're like, man, this guy's got it right. That's what you want. So for that feature set, honestly, you've created feature virality, even if it's not product virality. Because now they're like advocating and saying, these guys got it right. It's so amazing.
So like you always say, you have scar tissue. What are top mistakes you would advise upcoming PMs to avoid or product
I don't know
leaders?
if I ask you to avoid making mistakes. If I make as many as possible.
Yeah, but we can learn from others.
Oh, that's true. I try to do that.
So basically, what are the
I don't
do's
want to.
and
I don't want to
don'ts?
expose my
No,
incompetence
no,
over the years.
really?
Well, let me say a few. I don't know if
Yeah.
these are essential. One is managing is not the same as being a PM. It's a whole different skill set. If you ever become a PM manager, there's so many things you have to learn. It's not just like sliding to it. Managing people effectively, caring for people whose career might depend on you, in your opinion, requires some structure. You have to be willing to learn it from people. It's not the same as just being a PM. Um, Management is very from leadership. Sometimes people are just really good leaders, or they've learned to be good leaders. But managing people, growing them, connecting them to purpose for yourself and your company is different. Um, what else is important? It's very fashionable right now to talk of customer centricity. Oh, we gotta do customer discovery. You gotta talk to customers. Blah 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 blah. But actually, a lot of people get it wrong. They don't ask the right questions. They ask leading questions. So there's 10 ways to interview a customer. Probably 8 of them are wrong. So you have to get good. But I also want PMs to know that customer centricity is not enough. It's necessary but not sufficient. The good thing about my early time at Microsoft is that we learned creativity. We invented our way out of problems. We took leaps of inspiration. Now, the wrong side of that is that if your leaps of inspiration are not informed by customer immersion, sometimes they're off the reservation. They don't matter, right? But if you combine customer centricity with creativity, then that's the great unlock. Because customer centricity can be boring and plodding. It just gives you small incremental gains. Oh, okay, right, you raise the NPS by 10. Okay, whatever, man. It's just web technology. How hard is that? Or I find it so boring sometimes. Like people don't take. It's almost like insurance. I want to talk to 100 customers, right? I'm like, well, you already talked to 100 before. Like, what's your instinct? What wild leap are you gonna take based on that? That's what I want to know. He said, telling me you're talking to another 100 customers, so I'm gonna be impressed.
What did you hear from the first 100?
Yeah, and how? No, but not only what did you hear, but what does that inspire? You can't just be it's sometimes a CYA. I want to talk to 10 customers. My friend, please.
Yeah.
So I think like I keep telling people, like, I don't think chat is the interface for AI.
Mm.
In many ways, that's a leap of inspiration. I'm like, computers started with chat interfaces, command lines, but we don't
Mm.
have MS DOS 11 or
Yeah.
some crap like
Yeah.
that. We have Windows. There's a
Mm.
reason for that.
Mm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so saying that while everyone is building chat interfaces into everything, saying that the future is not chat
Mm.
is a leap of inspiration. I'm like, nah, nah. I've seen this movie before.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's how humans work.
Okay, thank you so much, Oji. This has been fun. But before I let you go,
Uh
what would your friends say about you? Like 3 words they will use to describe
oh. Wisdom,
you. Mm.
direct. I don't know. I don't think there's
Driven.
there's so many driven. Oh yeah, that too. Confident,
Mm-hmm.
driven.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like those ones because they're so impersonal. It sounds so like a textbook. I think those first two are essential, I guess. I think of many things to different people, like,
Yeah.
different aspects of myself. Yeah.
Okay. What would you say to 10-year-old you today if you could time travel?
Hmm. 10-year-old me. It's great that you know how to live in the future, but try to live in the present sometimes.
Okay, so this is, a little bit about work, but still you. So you've been actively trying to, create impact back home in
Mhm.
recent times. Is there anything in particular that propelled that?
No, I don't
Hmm.
know. I feel like it makes so much sense to me to give back. It makes so much sense to me to give back. I've never really questioned it. It just makes so much sense to give back. Even the book I'm writing, a part of it will be free. Why is it free? People in the US can afford it, but it's
Hmm.
because my Indian product peeps and my African product peeps, maybe you can't afford the whole thing on Amazon. And so I want some of it to be available. It's so important to give back.
Nice. Last question. I promise. You take on a lot of work, a lot of life, a lot of, you take on a lot basically. How do you unwind? Do you have an outlet?
Hmm. I read for
Okay.
pleasure. What is it? Just good. I love good prose. I'm a workaholic.
Okay. Interesting.
I write also for pleasure, and that's my catharsis. Although I'm so busy, as a writer, my soul. If I was born like completely comfortable and rich, I'll just be
Mm.
a writer. Just be
Oh.
writing words.
Mm.
Um, I like hanging out with the people I love, the big one, when I have the time,
Mm.
and I do other things. I have a motorcycle. I like riding.
Mm.
I like driving fast. You know, sometimes I'll just take a to drive. I'll take a walk, a long walk.
Thank you so much, Oji. Thank you. This was amazing.